Hi, I'm Paul LaMonica, and welcome to the West Haven Virtual Ghost Tour. Tonight's ghost story takes us back to the days of industrial West Haven and industrial New Haven. If we go back 100 years or so ago, we'll still see the factories that made West Haven a big industrial center and the New Haven area a big industrial center. For example, we'll see the American Buckle Company, which produced West Haven buckles, a very important industry throughout the country. We'll see Armstrong Rubber Company, which made tires and at one point was the sixth largest tire producer in the country. Around the turn of the century, New Haven area, especially West Haven, was filled with factories and filled with workers, and the New Haven harbor was an important center of commerce. And that takes us to the story of the Southwest Ledge Lighthouse, which is the tale of our ghost story. New Haven Harbor required a lighthouse. There was a significant amount of commerce, ships going in and out around the turn of the last century. And these steamships were running aground on a ledge that's about 5 miles away from the harbor. The ledge during low tide is only about 5 feet deep. And so it was decided by the Coast Guard to put a lighthouse right on top of the ledge. And this lighthouse is what I used to call when I was growing up the little lighthouse. It's the lighthouse on the breakwater. And to this day, it is still the working lighthouse in New Haven Harbor. It is completely automated now and unmanned, but it is the lighthouse that guides the ship into New Haven Harbor. And it still has the foghorn that we hear on those lonely nights, those foggy nights. I remember growing up. Now in 1907, the lighthouse keeper was a man named Jorgen Johnensen. And Jorgen Johnensen hired himself a new assistant lighthouse keeper named Niels Nelson. Niels Nelson was something of a hero. In 1903, 4 years before he got the job in New Haven, he was an assistant lighthouse keeper in Rhode Island, and he saved a man from drowning. The man was on a boat during a storm, being pushed toward the rocks, and Nelson went out in his own rowboat and saved the man and was awarded the Coast Guard Gold Medal. Now, he had to get a new job in New Haven, and the Southwest Ledge Lighthouse was a horrible place to live and work for two reasons. Number one, the conditions there were atrocious. It had no water, it had no sanitation, it was overly hot in the summer, it was overly cold in the winter, it was rat infested, there were bugs, it was just a horrible conditions to live in. But the second reason that it was a tough place for Nelson to live, Nelson to work, was Jonassen himself. He was a needler, he was a pain in the neck, and in the fact that he had Nelson, who was a hero, he had himself a perfect foil. Because now everything became, Nelson, you're a hero. Nelson, you're a hero, clean the latrine. Nelson, you're a hero, I'll have the last glass of rum. And there wasn't anything Nelson could do because Jonassen was his boss. So he just kept his mouth shut and tried to keep working. Well, once Nelson arrived at the lighthouse, he began to have nightmares. And in these nightmares, he saw the souls of shipwrecked men who had been dashed against his rocks. And in the dreams, he constantly heard the voices calling out to him and saying, Nelson, you're a hero. You should be able to save us. Well, Nelson would wake up in cold sweats, having heard these voices, and were really having a lot of trouble staying there. But certainly he couldn't tell Jonassen about it because Jonassen would just make fun of him worse. Well, it turns out that Nelson's dreams started to get crazy. Now he started to hear not just the voices of the damned, but he saw a man, a dark figure in his dream. And the dark figure continued to tell him, Nelson, you're a hero. You should have saved these people. Nelson, you're a hero. It's your fault that all these shipwrecks have occurred. And Nelson was starting to believe it, even though it made no sense. How could it possibly be his fault when he wasn't even there? But he was getting more and more out of sorts. He was getting more and more tired. He wasn't sleeping well. And Obviously the food was lousy, the conditions were lousy, and it just was turning him into a very quiet and angry person. Well, one morning in 1907, he decided to get up and try to make breakfast. And of course, there were rats in the flour again. So he told Jonathan about it. And Jonathan said, well, you know what? Since you're a hero, why don't you go in and get some more flour for us? And this time, Nelson grabbed Jonathan by the throat and said, I'm tired of hearing about that hero business. And if you say it one more time, I'm going to rip your tongue out and I'm going to feed it to the fish. So the next morning, Jonathan decided to go to New Haven to get supplies himself. And he left Nelson at the lighthouse. And while Nelson was going around making repairs, trying to get the place up to date, who should he see but the man from his dream? And the man from his dream told him, you know, Nelson, the problem is that your boss hates you. Your boss is the reason that you can't save those people. And if your boss wasn't here, everything would be fine. And that made perfect sense to Nelson. And he knew what he had to do when his boss came back, when Jonathan came back. Well, Jonathan came back and he brought his brother along. Yeah, I'm bringing my brother along. He's going to stay with us. He'll stay down in my bed. You're a hero. You can sleep upstairs. Of course, at this point, Nelson wasn't concerned because he knew that he was going to take care of these two. And that night, when Jonathan and Jonathan's brother both got themselves into their room, Nelson went out, took the axe that he had used for repairs in the building that they kept to fix things and to put out fires. Anyway, he took the axe and he crept down the stairs and he went to swing it to finally kill Jonathan and put him out of his misery. But Jonathan woke up and ran away, and Nelson chased him up and around the lighthouse itself, around the walkway, and he finally caught up to him. And Jonathan fell, and Nelson went to swing the axe back to finally chop off this guy's head and kill him, and bam! Jonathan's brother hit him with a bat. Well, the two Jonathan men decided that they were not going to keep Nelson there anymore. And they put him in a boat, in a rowboat, and they pushed the rowboat toward the shore, knowing that it would wash up to sea. And when Nelson woke up, he realized what had happened. And once again, he saw the man from his dream. And this time, the man from his dream said, look, you know what you have to do to fix this now. And Nelson agreed, and he took out a fishing knife, and he cut his own throat. And that's the story of the Southwest Lighthouse.